Hello, today I'm doing something a little different. I'll be using a special machine called a Sous Vide. It has an oscillating motor on the end of a stick that I can place in this water bath, which I'm using my sink today for a large water bath. And I can turn my temperature on this water bath to a very precise location. I'll be cooking a eye of round in this, so I'm selecting my temperature on my sous vide, and it'll be 131. Usually I should actually be choosing 131.5 based on some reading I've been doing, but some say 131 is safe as well. You can choose whatever temperature you like for the cook of your meat. But yeah, definitely 131.5 is completely safe, and I'll be putting it in this water bath for 12 to 24 hours. Alright, so I have my water bath prepared. I switched it to the other sink and I didn't remember why, but I switch it back later. I'm just showing you that this cut of meat is eye of round. I got a double pack to save a little bit of cash. The eye of round is a really good price for what it is. It tastes a bit like steak. It feels a bit like steak, and you can cook it very tender in the sous vide. I'll be cooking mine to basically medium rare, so it'll be 131.5 degrees or so when I'm done here. And you can hear in the video I actually just had my sous vide didn't have enough water, so I made sure that it was filled up all the way. And I'm just inspecting it and seeing how the fat cap looks. I actually go ahead and I just trim this sometimes if it's too thick, and I will place it on the other side of the meat to tenderize it, and then when the meat's done I just throw it in the garbage. My husband really likes to leave the fat on the meat, so I do always leave a little bit on even after the meat is completely done cooking and broiling. So I'm just prepping that one. This recipe is really simple, and this video is really short because of it, so I just place the meat in the bag, and then after this I'm going to add spices and salt and pepper, and I'm going to just mix it around onto that. And then I'll submerge it in the bath, so you'll see in a second here. Alright, so now I go ahead and I'm going to mix the spices in and the salt. So you can use a decent amount of salt, because at the end of the video I'll show you that the waters and juices that are in the bag, I kind of just throw those away. I've tried reusing them and they're just not like broth. So you could use quite a lot of salt. You could use 2 or 3 teaspoons per bag of this. I think each of those loins is about 2 or 3 pounds. And then the pepper is sort of similar. It's going to be spicy if you add more. So I put in about a teaspoon, I think, in those. And the salt is really important because it's going to tenderize the meat. So you do want to make sure you get enough salt in there. So you can see this time I'm adding crushed rosemary and thyme. You can make this with just salt and pepper. I like it pretty well that way. But it's the rosemary and the thyme I find really bring out more in the meat. So I use those quite regularly. And this recipe I always also have bay leaves in there. It adds a lot of flavor because I'm not putting broth in this bag or anything. So it's really nice to have those bay leaves adding some extra flavor to the meat. So just 2 of those in each one. And as you can see, my water bath's still heating up. It doesn't take long for it to get to 130 degrees. And this is most of the cooking prep right now, is just spreading this around. Now, this step I do because I want the salt on that meat to tenderize it right away. I could put everything in the bag and just leave it on one side of the meat, but until the juices start circulating around the meat, the salt would only be on one side. So I do this so that the salt is in contact with all sides of the meat right away. All right, so this is just me showing you how to vacuum seal. If you have a vacuum sealer, it makes this job a lot easier, but I do not. So I use the water immersion method, and I'm well known to put my mouth on there and take the last little bit of the air out, but the water immersion method will get you enough of the air out if you're really careful with it. Like, I'm trying to show you the best I can do to get every little ounce out. You kind of squeeze the bag close to the meat, and then you close all of it except a little part, and then you kind of check your air seal afterwards. I got almost all of it out this way. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. I have this plastic bag that I put over top of my water bath, and I have that for two reasons. One is it keeps the water from evaporating. I've had it on there for over 18 hours at this point, and that's a waste of water. You'd have to refill it if you didn't have that cover on there. The other reason is it helps keep the sous vide from working super hard to keep the water hot. When the water is evaporating, it can lose a lot of its heat, and so covering it with a bag will keep a lot of that heat in. All right, so we have finished the sous vide step, and now all we have left is the baking or broiling step. I've got the roast in here, the eye of round roast that's been cooking at 131 degrees for about 18 hours. And it has all this liquid in the bag. I dispose of that. It really isn't that flavorful. I don't find it particularly useful later. Okay, so I don't show it in the video, but I take that roast, I put it in the oven at about 500 degrees or on broil. Regularly use broil for this. It will crisp up the top of it and give it a nice caramelized flavor, and it won't look so much like the slimy animal as it does when it comes out of the bag. It really does look quite delightful. So I've got right here a picture of what it looked like when we served it up, and you can see the inside of it, and it gets really good reviews. Everybody loves it. It's a favorite in our house. My children love it. It's totally sanitary when it's cooked in the sous vide. You can look up if you want. I recommend cooking it at the temperature over 131.5 because you're cooking it for a long time, and anything over that temperature will kill the bacteria for that prolonged period of time. Every temperature you select the sous vide, there's a different period of time that it's safe to cook it at, that it will stay sanitary or sanitize it. So like some lower temperatures, you don't want to cook it for a long time because it's actually growing bacteria. Like 129 is a bad temperature. I wouldn't ever actually cook anything at that. But anyway, I have here in this next slide the picture of the final result and a quick set of notes of the things I did, so you can take a look at that. I hope you enjoy cooking in the sous vide and trying out the eye of round roast.